The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Game Podcast Network is brought to you by Arctic Fantasy. Get the $1,000 deposit match when you sign up at Arctic Fantasy with the promo code SGPN. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Game Podcast here on the Sports Game Podcast Network. It's currently Thursday night, June 26th, around 9:45 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm Rosa always Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Time to get into the breakdown of the semifinal matches taking place in Eastbourne and in Mallorca. That's going to be taking place on Friday. For that, though, brief recap of what happened last episode for the quarterfinals. Unfortunately, not a good episode for us for the lock and dog. Ended up losing both. For the lock, we had Mensik team total over 12.5 at minus 130. Had some chances to maybe win the second set. Didn't get there, though. And the wind in the match was pretty crazy, which resulted in a bunch of wild, unforced errors. And it felt like Mensik was impacted more I'd say more by the wind than Fokina was. Had some chances to potentially go up 6-5 in the second set. Blew the game points, got broken. Then Fokina ended up holding. But either way, a weird match to watch based on the actual wind involvement, which was pretty noticeable early and often. But either way, point is Mensik didn't get the job done as he lost in straight sets. Took a favor to basically not lose in straight sets, and unfortunately that's what happened. Picked up a loss there. For the dog, we ended up picking the marathon between Diallo and Griekspoor. Didn't happen either, as we had the team totals parlayed for both of them at plus 170. Didn't work out as Griekspoor killed him, ended up winning 6-4, 6-4. Never really even close to cashing. You saw Griekspoor go up a break and ended up holding to win the first set. Broke immediately in the second set and ended up holding. So either way, Diallo did not break, and unfortunately, Diallo's serve let him down. Either way, though, a nice job by Griekspoor, and it actually helped cash us an outright for the quarter. I'll get into that in a second. Before the lock and dog, not good. Ended up losing both plays, so I'll try to bounce back here on Friday. Now, for the actual recap of the matches on Thursday for the quarters, overall, I'd say it was a pretty... I would use the term boring a day of tennis. There wasn't really much drama. The only person who had a bunch of drama was Fritz, who had to play a match and a set because his match against Fonseca got suspended and resumed today, as Fritz ended up beating Fonseca 7-5 in the third set. I thought Fritz would win in the continuation. I thought it'd be like 6-4, 7-5, close enough, but he got the job done there. Then he ended up beating Giron in a marathon, 1-7-5 in the third set as well. And besides that, every other match in Eastbourne was very lopsided. You saw Humbert win in straight sets against Harris. We did call that. He probably should have won more comfortably in the first set. Ended up choking the lead. It won the set anyway, and then dominated the second set. Brooksby killed Evans. A nice win for him, 6-2, 6-3. Nice run by the lucky loser to make it all the way into the semis. You ended up seeing Fokina, who beat Mensik 6-4, 7-5. Once again, the wind was a big story in the matches, and Mensik could not handle it, as it felt like he was always going to be a step behind Fokina, who just moves better, and I just thought Fokina did a better job of using variety to cope with the wind, and Mensik never really used that, I'd say, opportunity to make adjustments. He went to the net a bit more, which helped, but unfortunately, it just felt like Fokina was handling the conditions a bit better, and that's why he won the match in straight sets. And once again, that was the only other matches that happened, and the only ones that went to 3 sets involved Fritz. So either way, point is not too much drama in Eastbourne. For Mallorca, though, not too much drama either. Griekspoor did beat Diallo in straight sets, 6-4, 6-4. You saw Felix lose the first set to Medjedovic. Then Medjedovic hit a tweener lob in the beginning of the second set. And after that, Felix took over, 1-6-1, 6-4. So fun 3-setter. Did like the over on that one that got there, but Felix did win in 3. Moutet did beat Tien. Got that one wrong. Thought Tien would get the job done. The first set was lopsided. Second set was very competitive. Tien was actually up a break in the second, gave it back. And then Moutet eventually broke to win the match and to win the second set, 7-5. And Mickelson, we did call, picked him to beat Agut 6-4, 7-6. Mentioned this before. Agut might be solid to back if he has time off. On back-to-backs, you want to blindly fade the guy, and you ended up seeing him lose because it felt like Mickelson was a step ahead. But Agut, I've mentioned many times before, on back-to-backs, it is definitely a spot to fade Agut because of his age. And Mickelson, who likes to keep it in play, has I'd say a decent serve. Once again, not as good as it should be for a guy his height and size. But the point is, Mickelson felt like he was a step ahead, felt like Agut was just not moving as crisply as he needed to, and you ended up seeing Mickelson win in a competitive straight set matchup. So once again, in the actual picks that we had besides the lock and dog, I thought were fine. It just turns out we picked poorly for the lock and dog, but either way, it should be a fun collection of matches taking place on Friday. Now, looking at the actual quarter picks that we had entering the event. Starting off there, first of all, once again, we've had a pretty good run in Mallorca, but a pretty bad run in Eastbourne. So getting into the actual, once again, just looking at the actual picks that we had for the quarters in Eastbourne. Unfortunately, we did end up winning 2 quarters, so not terrible, but all the outrights to win the event already lost. So Fritz at minus 110 got there. Not easy, but we'll take it. Ended up winning the second. We lost second quarter as well, as we ended up having Mensik, and we had Vukic. That did not work out. Third quarter, though, we had Umber at plus 175. That got there. And we also had Nori at 3-1 who lost. Fourth quarter did not work out. We had Paul at plus 140, and we also ended up having Comasagna at 22-1, which was a little bit rough because I don't remember lines being posted on Brooksby in the first place. So I know based on the letter of the law, it's still a loss, but I don't remember Brooksby even being an option to actually bet on because he replaced Bublik, and that resulted in what was a pretty favorable draw for Comasagna, but it turns out it wasn't. But I don't remember Brooksby having a line listed, so we actually could not have picked correctly for the fourth quarter anyway. But either way, a point is got 2 of the 4 quarters. Not great, but it is what it is. For the actual outrights, we had Paul at 6-1, Mensik at 9-1, and Nori 22-1, and all of those guys obviously lost already. For Mallorca, though, it was a very, very good event so far for the quarter bets. First quarter, we did have Shelton at plus 320. Didn't work, but we had Moutet at 3-1. So nice cash there. Good price at 3-1. Second quarter, we had both Mickelson and Agut. So we had Agut at 4-1, and we had Mickelson at plus 162. That got there as well. Third quarter, we picked one guy only. We picked Griekspoor at plus 137. That got there. For the fourth quarter, we did lose Safulin at 5-1, but we also did have Felix at plus 110. So once again, we ended up getting 2 of the 4 quarters right in Eastbourne. We got all 4 right. For Mallorca, including a 3-1 shot there with Moutet. In fact, all 4 quarter picks that we had were plus money, so can't complain there. For the outrights to win the event, we got Shelton wrong at plus 470, but we have Felix at plus 430, and we have Griekspoor at 9-1, who are still alive. And we actually have them facing off against each other in the semis. So we have a guaranteed finalist in Mallorca, so that is definitely a good spot to be in. We'll see who wins between Felix and Griekspoor point as we will have a guaranteed finalist in the event. Hopefully whoever ends up winning on Friday can also win on Saturday, and we'll end up adding another outright to our collection. Anyway, nothing else to really add there. Wasn't much drama. You had some Wimbledon qualifying action, which was the final day of qualifying. So if you were interested in seeing some challenger level tennis, with the caveat that it was 3 to 5 sets instead of 2 out of 3, then you came to the right place because you saw a decent amount of competitive matchups in Wimbledon. Couple of wars. Holmgren beat Watanuki in back-to-back 7-6s to end the match. Bit crazy there. Garin ended up losing 7-5 to Zeppieri in the 5th set. Ended up seeing a decent amount of 4-setters, but overall some competitive tennis, and we'll see what happens. Manarino, though, did qualify, so good for Manarino. Jari qualified easily, did not drop a set in qualifying. Faria did in 4. Fuchsovic's lost in 4 sets. It's a bit of a shocking upset, but then George dropped out of Wimbledon, so Fuchsovic's got the spot as a lucky loser, so it didn't actually matter for Fuchsovic's, which is kind of a weird moment for him, as he lost as a massive favorite in the final round of qualifying, but got rewarded anyway because George dropped out. Misolic won in 4. Nothing else to really talk about. You saw Kaza beat Lajovic. Nice job by Lajovic to make it into the final round of qualifying in the first place, but Kaza winning was not too surprising. Besides that, though, not too much drama and not too many shocks worth talking about. You saw Basilashvili win in 4 if you wanted a throwback name there. For the women's side, Towson ended up getting in. Not a surprise, good volleyer, and she ended up using it to get into the main draw. What else is there to talk about for women's side? I didn't see much else. I saw Cornet losing straight sets, but she's not the player she used to be. You saw Jovic get in for another American, and yeah, basically it. You saw a decent run by Jones, this Australian player who was she was really good in juniors. But point is, she made it all the way to the final round of qualifying, did eventually fall short against Perry. But she's only 16 years old, so you had a 16-year-old make it to the final round of qualifying and eventually did lose at the very end, but nice run for her anyway, making it all the way into the third round. Anyway, point is time to move on into the actual breakdown of the matches on Friday. Before we get into the breakdown of those matches, a reminder that we do have a great contest going on for SGPN, because if you want to check out the actual contest, NASCAR's Instant Tournament is happening right now. We're running a free contest. Head over to sportscam.com/NASCAR contest to get in on the action for a chance to win a $200 gift card, and make sure you subscribe to the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. Once again, it's a free contest. Head over to sportscampodcast.com/NASCAR contest to get in on the action. Plus, a reminder, they're brought to you by MyBookie, because they're available a ton of locations. You use it to bet on the NBA, the WNBA, the MLB, golf, UFC, football futures. Also available in a ton of locations. Use crypto for easy deposits, fast payouts when you sign up, though. Use the code SGPN for a 1% deposit match up to $1K. Terms and conditions MyBookie.ag, promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Circa, because they are still hosting their Ultimate Fantasy Ball contest for a chance for a 12-person league draft in Vegas. Be like VIPs for their stay. Get a limo ride from the airport, a 5K tab from Stadium Swim, and a hotel stay for you and your 11 league mates. You can always get 15% off everything, Circa Properties, with the code SGP15. Last chance to enter, though, at sportscam.com/Circa to enter the free fantasy football contest. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Scam Podcast. Finished going through the recap of the matches on Thursday. Time to move on into the matches taking place on Friday. Now, for the actual calendar, you do see Mallorca starting half an hour before Eastbourne. We're going to start off with Mallorca here for the card. Starting off with the first match, you have you have Felix taking on Griekspoor. For this one, Felix is minus 140. You have Griekspoor plus 120 for the spread, minus 1.5 for Felix, plus 1.5 for Griekspoor. The over-under is at either 23.5 games juiced at minus 125 or 24.5 games at minus 110 apiece. Now, for the set spread, you have Felix in straight sets at plus 167. You have Griekspoor in straight sets at plus 260. The over 2.5 sets is around plus 130. Now, they actually faced off on grass previously. Faced off in Den Bosch back in 2022. Felix won 7-6, 7-6. One caveat, though, no breaks in the match. Felix won despite not forcing a single break point in the entire match. So you saw Griekspoor serve well, actually, and it didn't matter, as you lost both breakers, but Felix is 2 in a lifetime, so something to keep in mind. Now, the first meeting, though, was U.S. Open qualifying in 2018. Doesn't matter. You could argue that both meetings don't really matter, because the most recent one was about 3 years ago. But still, point is, Felix is up 2-0 in the head-to-head, but in the event so far, Felix has done enough to survive. He has not looked that great, but he's been winning. Beat Medjedovic in 3. Rinderknech was a bit up and down in the first set, then he got the job done there in straight sets anyway. Did lose in Halle in 3 sets to Kashanov. Did beat De Geer in 3 sets in Halle. Also lost to Fritz in Stuttgart in straight sets. The point is, Felix has not been really looking that sharp lately. He's been winning, but he has been punting some sets here or there. In fact, he has lost at least 1 set in 4 of his last 5 matches. So Griekspoor, I think, can potentially get the job done in this one. He's looked very good in the event by comparison. Did beat Quinn and Diallo in straight sets. Didn't get broken in the entire match against Diallo, as Felix, though, has had a bit of once again, shaky go of it. He's been winning, which is all that matters. The point is, do I think Felix should be minus 145, give or take? I do not. I think it's a big price. I think Griekspoor is value. I think it should be a very competitive matchup. Griekspoor handled 1 Canadian on Thursday in Diallo. Think he can handle another on Friday. I think you're looking at Griekspoor, whose serve has been solid. The net skills are very impressive. It's why I liked him in the event in the first place. A lot of serving and volleying, a lot of shortened points, and Felix does have a pretty strong tendency of just punting away points, especially on the return. He's a really bad returner if you actually watch him. When it comes to easy returns, he might find breaks in matches and might be able to pull off some impressive shots over the course of a matchup. The problem is, if you actually hit a reasonable second serve in his proximity, he does tend to spray a lot of returns out of play, and I do think Griekspoor's serve should dominate once again. I said before they faced off 3 years ago, Griekspoor lost the match. They don't face a break point in the entire matchup. So I think Felix's return game, will be tested in this matchup, and I think it's going to fail for the most part. Give me Greek Sport in this one. I think the price is too big. You could argue it might be a war anyway. I wouldn't argue with you, but I am going to go with Greek Sport to get the job done as a whole at around plus 125. Price feels too big. I think it should be around minus 120 for Felix, but I do think this price is out of the, I'd say, correct range that I'm looking for. Give me Greek Sport on the money line at plus 125 as my, once again, main play for this one. Don't mind the over as well. Then that could be intriguing. Maybe the team total overs if you want to go that route once again. Moving on, though, to the Mickelson match against Moutet. Now, both guys ended up making it to the semis in our favor. In fact, all four guys in the event did. Moutet, though, extra round of applause for him because he ended up cashing the 3-1 price to win the quarter. But for this one, he's a pretty decent dog here. Mickelson's minus 180. You have Moutet at plus 150. For the spread, you have minus 2.5 for Mickelson. You have plus 2.5 for Moutet. The over-under is at 22.5. Now, Mickelson has played Moutet before. It was on clay, so not really a good comp. It was last year, and Moutet killed him, as Moutet won in Monte Carlo 6-1, 6-3. Does it matter? Not even a little bit, because that was on clay, and we know Mickelson is not a good clay player at all. Grass, though, Mickelson's not bad. It might be his best surface. Now, it's kind of an oxymoron how Mickelson's serve is underwhelming, and yet he's actually good on grass, made the Newport final last year. So I do think that Moutet has played well in the event so far. Got off to a bad start. Killed our lock a couple episodes ago. We took him to beat Martinez in straight sets, and after that, he ended up losing the first set and then won 6 sets in a row. So that's a bit annoying, but Moutet still cashed the 3-1 shot, so I'll forgive him. But he beat Tien, beat Altmaier, and beat Martinez. Not exactly the toughest draw, but still got the job done there nicely. Now, for Mickelson, he has not dropped a set yet. Ended up beating Holt in straight sets and beat Agut in straight sets. So the point is, Moutet, we know, is a very weird player to prepare for because of the drop shots, the variety, the underarm serve, and also just his short stature in general. It's really tough to simulate that type of matchup, and that could be why he's so successful. It's because nobody's running scout team for his opponents trying to impersonate Moutet, and that can result in a very interesting matchup where the variety and the unpredictability does seem to just completely mess with their opponents' heads. And I do think that can be a problem here for Mickelson. Now, Mickelson, I think stature-wise and playstyle-wise, should be a somewhat bad matchup for Moutet because Mickelson does like to spend his time rallying behind the baseline, but he will come forward. And I do think that he will force Moutet to hit some lobs. He might force Moutet to hit some passing shots. Mickelson, though, is a tall guy. He can cover a lot of ground, and I do think his court coverage will give him an edge in this matchup. Now, do I think the price is fair at about minus 180? I do not. Mickelson is 6'4", which helps. I think he can find ways to put pressure on Moutet by coming to the net, shortening points, and trying to even showcase a bit of serve and volley. I think Moutet will keep this match competitive. I don't mind the over maybe in this one. I think Mickelson should be favored in the matchup. 180, though, does feel pretty expensive for Mickelson, and I see Sashi agreeing that, once again, Mickelson at 180 does feel pretty expensive. Not the clutchest player. He's never won a title before. I think it's a spot where you're looking at what should be a fun, competitive matchup. I will give a bit of respect to Moutet. So maybe if you want to go for the games, 3.5 games, though, is minus 170 for Moutet. That I can't really do. Mickelson team total over 12.5. Do I think Moutet can actually win 5 in a set or force a third set? I think that would be the approach I'd go with. I can see Moutet unraveling in a set, but I do think Moutet can force a 7-5 or a 7-6. I don't mind Mickelson team total over 12.5 at around minus 125. That way he still wins. He doesn't have to. Could go 3 sets. But I will give Moutet's unpredictability and his variety some credit, and I do think it can find some opportunities against Mickelson to cause him to hit some errors. So I'll go with the team total over for Mickelson instead. I don't want to lay the 180. I'll go for another option. Give me the team total over Mickelson at around minus 125 as my main thought for this one. Moving on to the matchups taking place in... That was Yes. Okay, my bad. So once it'll go with the Mickelson team total over. I thought I saw 13. It's actually 12.5. So once again, 12.5 at around minus 125, give or take. I'll go with that for that matchup. Anyway, moving on to Eastbourne. This one should be a bit interesting because you have bigger favorites in this tournament. You have Humbert against a lucky loser in Brooksby. So once again, we're going to look at Humbert, who we think can do some damage. We did think he was a potential, I'd say, not dark horse, but we did think that he had a chance to win the event. We didn't take him, but he was on the short list of second cut guys who didn't make it. So unfortunately, did pick poorly for that one. But either way, Brooksby, nice job by him making it as a lucky loser into the semis. He's been great in the event. But either way, Humbert's minus 190, give or take. You have Brooksby at around plus 160. For the spread, minus 2.5 for Humbert, plus 2.5 for Brooksby. The over-unders at 22.5. For the set spread, you have Humbert in straight sets at plus 132. Brooksby, 2 win in straight sets is plus 350. The over 2.5 sets is around plus 140. For the head-to-head history, I believe they've never faced off against each other before, so we have nothing to go with there. Actually, no, they faced off a couple years ago on hard court. Humbert won in Basel, 6-1, 6-4. 3 years ago, doesn't really matter, but technically you saw Humbert win in straight sets. Now, Brooksby, though, has looked very good. Beat Comasagna in straight sets. First set was a breaker. It shouldn't have been. He was serving for the set at 6-5, and he choked it, but eventually did win the breaker. Beat Borges in straight sets and beat Evans in straight sets. So overall, very impressive by Brooksby. For Humbert, he's been good too. Has not dropped a set yet. Ended up beating Sonego in straight sets and beat Harris in straight sets. So Humbert should be a decent favorite. He has had success on the tour before as a champion on multiple events in the ATP Tour. Brooksby ended up winning a title on clay a couple months ago in, once again, the Texas tournament, which has some of the worst clay quality of all time. But the point is, you saw Brooksby win a title before, so either way, impressive by him so far this season. Coming back from suspension for about a year as he won the title in the U.S. Men's Clay Court Championship, as he ended up beating Tiafoe in the... I'm sorry, was that Tiafoe? I think it was Tiafoe. I'm trying to remember. Who the hell did he beat in the final? I think it was Tiafoe. I think he killed Tiafoe in the final. But either way, point is, Brooksby missed 18 months with a suspension, and then he came back, and he's actually been very good. So for the matchup itself, I think Humbert should win. I do think Brooksby will make it competitive. I don't see it being a lopsided one. Brooksby's been moving very well into this event, and I do think the serve, which has been a weakness for him, has actually not been a complete liability. He's been serving quite well, and I do think that's the biggest flaw in his game. But you know what? His slice game is fine. He came forward to the net. The variety was good. He looks very good out there. Like, I got to give him props for it. He lost in qualifying, but it didn't matter, as he got in anyway, courtesy of the lucky loser. Made the most of it. See, Rex, the thing about Brooksby, though, is that his weird shot selection and his weird shot technique make him very weird to play against, and I do think that can give Humbert some problems for timing. Humbert, though, is also a guy with a pretty elongated forehand, especially. The serve should be fine. I think it should be a fun matchup. I will pick Humbert to win. I think it's close. I think Brooksby, based on current form, beating Borges, beating Evans, some decent guys in general, I think he can make it competitive. Humbert had a 7-5 against Sonego, a 7-6 against Harris. Bit fluky there, but still went to a tiebreak. You can find the team total for Humbert at 12.5 at minus 135. I don't mind that. I don't mind the over at 22.5. This can go 3. I'm not going to write off Brooksby entirely. I understand that Humbert has been one of our best actual tennis players on the show. We've bet on him many times to win events, to win quarters, to win matches. He's come through for us. Both guys, though, have a very solid mindset during matches. They really don't punt away points. They fight for every point. I do trust the actual effort level from both players. I think it's going to be very close. I'll go Humbert in 3. If Brooksby won, I would not be shocked. But do I think the price sounds right at around minus 190? I understand it because Humbert is a multiple-time ATP champion, and he's also a ranked player, and Brooksby is a lucky loser. But at the same point, I think Brooksby is being disrespected here. I think Brooksby can keep this match close. I think he can win a set, and I do think Brooksby is potentially on the verge of making the finals here. We'll see if he wins the matchup. I'm going to say no, but if he did, I would not be surprised. So I'm going to go with Humbert in 3. Give me the team total over for that one instead. For Humbert, a minus 135 as my main thought for that one. Moving on to the next matchup, the final matchup on the actual card, looking at the matchup between, pulling it up right now, Fritz and Fokina. Now for this one, they actually faced off earlier this year, and they had themselves a marathon as Fokina won in 2 tiebreaks, but this time you see Fritz looking for revenge in one of his favorite events of the calendar year. Fritz has not looked too great, did play 4 sets yesterday, on Thursday, beat Fonseca in the final set, ended up beating Giron in a war in 3 sets there. Fritz, though, is minus 290. Fokina's plus 230. For the over-under, I see 22.5 games. For the actual spread, I see 3.5 for Fritz, plus 3.5 for Fokina. And for the over-under in sets, I do see, once again, 2.5. The over is plus 136. Set spread, you have Fritz to win in straight sets at plus 105. Fokina to win a set is minus 135. And you're looking at Fokina, in theory, to win in straight sets, which is available at a massive price of 5-1. Now, for the head-to-head, Fokina's been good against Fritz in the past. Beat him this year in Delray in 2 tiebreaks. You saw Fritz beat him in Paris 2022. You saw Fokina, though, win a couple of clay meetings in Estoril and in Monte Carlo 2022. And you saw Fritz beat him in 3 in 2018 in Madrid. So only 1 meeting within the last basically 3 years. And you saw that happen this year. And Fokina did win in straight sets. Now, the point is, Fritz is a multiple-time champion here, so you're assuming he should win. However, minus 290 for a guy that has gone to 3 sets against Giron and Fonseca. Fonseca, I know, has a lot of talent, no grass resume at all. I do think that's problematic for Fritz, and the fact is he did play 4 sets yet on Thursday. Not the best spot for Fritz. Now, Fokina did beat a big server in Mensik, who's not that great on grass, but the point is you did see him deal with the big serve, create breakpoint chances. The wind helped. There should be less wind on Friday, so there should not be as many, I'd say, weird conditions compared to Thursday, so maybe you'll see the better serves prevail in the 2 matchups here. But I do think it's going to be a close matchup. The line feels very disrespectful. Fokina's been good. Like, I think that Fritz, if I was going to actually trust him to win this match in straight sets, you can't be going to 3-set wars that end in 7-5s against Fonseca and Giron. Fokina's been good. I think Fokina, who's also had his number in the past, I understand that Fritz was on clay for a couple of those meetings, but Fokina beat him this year in Delray. Fritz is pretty good in Delray. It's in America. He has the crowd support. It was a night match. Got the job done in straight sets. Fokina is dangerous. I do think he can pull this off. The upset might be, once again, a possibility. I will pick Fritz to win. I think it's a close matchup. Similar story to Humbert. I'll go with the favorite in 3. Give me the over for the sets. I think that Fritz will be pushed. I think eventually the serve will be enough to win, and I do think Fokina, who does have a history of choking, maybe unravels here in the late stages, but either way, I am going to go with Fritz in 3. I do see some people making the case for Fokina money line, and I see Sashi mentioning it. Listen, I think that looking at a minus 290 on Fritz is an insane price point, so on principle, I agree. I think that if I was going to price it myself, I would have Fritz at about minus 160, I think. 160, 170. 290 is outrageous. That is solely based on reputation of him being a 3-time champion here, not based enough on his actual form in this event, which has not been that great, going 3 sets against Giron and against, once again, Fonseca. I think Fokina can pull this off. I'm not going to be shocked if he does, but I do think the price is way too high on Fritz. On principle, give me Fokina money line at plus 230. I do think the over has some value as well at 22.5. I am going to point out that 4 of the 5 career meetings did go over this number, and it is still on grass. So keep that in mind. You might see a pretty competitive war between the two of them. Give me the over for this one as well. Gonna wrap it up, though, for the match previews, and now it's time for the lock and dog picks for the semifinal matchups. Before we get into the lock and dog, a reminder, they're brought to you by our sponsor, which is Under Fantasy, because they are doing their Best Ball Mania, which is happening all summer long. $15 million in prizes, including $2 million for first place. No waiver wire, no argument about trades. Best Ball is the best way to play fantasy football. Underdog's also a great place to play Pick'em. And a reminder, you can always sign up with the code SGPN to get a special pick anniversary deposit offer up to $1K in bonus cash on fantasy promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm, because they just dropped a game-changing feature called Power Trends. They already detect the patterns. Rhythm's models have consistently won, have a high ROI. Power Trends are updated every day. Exclusive to Rhythm. You can also find them without any noise. Any touts, just clean data-back picks. Try it for free by using the 7-day free trial. Download the app, check out Power Trends, start betting smarter. With the 7-day free trial, go to sportsgambling.com/rhythm to get your 7-day free trial. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast. Finished going through the preview of the semifinal matchups taking place on Friday in Mallorca and Eastbourne. Now it's time for the lock and dog picks. For the lock, I'm going to go back to the last matchup that we talked about between Fritz and Fokina. Give me the over, 22.5 games at minus 126. I think it's a great price. There's been a 7-5 or 7-6 set in Fokina's 3 matches in the event so far. He's been solid. The wind was a very weird element in the matchup against Mensik, but you know what? He handled it well, and I do think he can do a pretty good job against Fritz's serve, because we saw Giron break him. We saw Fonseca have some chances. Fritz's serve has not been as good as expected on the courts here, and I do think Fokina can find openings to win a set or once again force a competitive set that he might lose. But each of Fritz's last 3 matches have not ended in straight sets. Lost in 3 to Moutet last week. We saw him go to 3 against Giron, went to 3 against Fonseca. I think his form is drastically overrated at the moment, and I do think that Fritz is vulnerable. Fokina's been good, though, so I do think you're looking at what should be a competitive matchup. Fritz has also had a bunch of competitive sets before. There's been a 7-5 or a 7-6 set in 12 of Fritz's last 13 matches. So give me a breaker in here, maybe a breaker and a 6-4 that gets there too. But the head-to-head has been close. 3 of the 4 career head-to-head meetings have ended in a total that went over 22.5. With that being the case, these matchups tend to be close. I think it will be again, and I think Fritz, who's been punting sets, is not exactly worthy of getting an automatic expectation to win comfortably in straight sets here. I don't see it. Give me a close matchup. Give me the over as my lock for the show. For the dog, I'm going to go back to the Felix and Griekspoor matchup. Thought about Griekspoor money line, but instead, I'm going to go with a safer option. Give me Griekspoor team total over 13 at even money. Now, Griekspoor is minus 220 to win a set, so we're picking him to be competitive anyway based on pricing. Felix, though, has not been dominant by any means. Like Fritz, he has been dropping sets recently. He's lost at least 1 set in 4 of his last 5 matches. Dropped a set to Medjedovic earlier on Thursday. Do think Felix has been up and down. The serve's been good, though. You're looking at Griekspoor, whose serve has been good, too. They did face off on grass previously. Felix won in straight sets. 2 breakers, but did not face a break point in the match. I think Griekspoor will serve well. Felix's errors, though, have been noticeable at various points of the matches in this event so far. I think it might go to a 3-set marathon, or you see Griekspoor win, and if he does in straight sets in theory, then you're probably getting a breaker or 7-5 in there. So you do have a potential push draw if you needed, but you're looking at what I think should be at least, I think that Griekspoor wins at least 1 set in the match. Good enough for me. Give me the Griekspoor team total over 13 as my dog at plus 100. Don't mind the 13.5 at plus money, but I'll play it safe in case he does win in straight sets. So I'll go with Griekspoor team total at 13 instead as my dog. So once again, plays here for the semis. The lock's going to be on Fritz and Fokina over 22.5 games minus 126. For the dog, I'm going to go with Griekspoor team total over 13 at plus 100. It's going to wrap it up for the show. We'll back once again to get into the final in Eastbourne and Mallorca. So keep an eye out for the episode tomorrow. Till next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.